Hey Melbourne musicians and everybody else, I'm Leigh Thomas. Thanks for the interview. First question. Two of us working on all my recordings, myself obviously on vocals and guitars, and my son Sam Thomas pretty much takes care of everything else, all the rest of the instrumentation, percussion, some keyboard parts and production. Yes, he's a young fella but a very seasoned musician himself, and has a lot of experience writing, recording, performing, producing his own music for his current band, Pretty Bleak. Myself, I've been playing music live primarily for a few decades. I've been a full-time musician pretty much. I did play and record quite a bit of stuff with some indie bands back a few decades ago, in the days of having to waltz into a professional studio and digital recording and tape to tape and things like that. So I was recording original material back then for another band as a guitarist, and we went around to some great studios, Sing Sing, Birdland, Charing Cross in Sydney, also one in Brisbane, and since then, pretty much just been a live performer. Playing wise, most of my work is centered between my two main locations being Melbourne and also Latrobe Valley, where I'm based. So usually pub gigs, clubs, restaurants, bars, anywhere that will give me a gig. So yeah, I think that's a pretty accurate description of what my material represents to this point. Fairly rock-based, guitar-based. Being a guitarist, I think there's always going to be an element of rock coming out, whether it's a little harder, alternative, a little softer, or even leaning towards pop and country styles. I think mainly I let the song I'm working on dictate a little bit. I think a lot of that comes from, as a young guy, listening to a lot of the big bands like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and things like that, who really had a really wide range of representation of style on their music. So since lockdown, obviously big changes. I think for anyone who's a working musician out there, it's been a pretty sudden and dramatic shift to trying to busy yourself with music in other ways apart from live performing, which does allow a lot more time for writing, recording, and that's what I've thrown myself into pretty heavily in the last few months. And live streaming is definitely an important part of that for me. I still can connect with my audience, and I've done many live streams. I'm doing a couple a week, both on Facebook and Instagram, and it's a good way to keep your audience entertained, to keep your profile up, to have some fun and keep yourself working. So yeah, well, I've been playing around for a long time, so I probably have plenty of advice for young people. You are working for somebody, you are performing for somebody. It's not really all about you. Don't forget that you're there to give something to people, so keep your audience in mind, keep the people who you're working for, the venues in mind. They're there to make a living as well. Be humble, don't be too egotistical about being a musician. You're doing a job, you're doing what you're born to do, you're giving something to people, and I think that's really important, to really keep your audience in mind and treat them well, and not to be carried away with yourself too much.